It'll pick it up.
Thing's making me cross-eyed looking at it. Anyways, I'm Bob. I'm an addict. Apparently, I get to speak first because the person with the least clean time is supposed to speak first when there's more than one up front. I got clean August 81. She beat me by 3 months. So now Diane gets to correct me instead. If I do any errors here while I'm talking. I brought some little notes because I get nervous about this stuff. I'll never need them. I could talk forever. I'm glad they put a time limit because I'll sit here with my watch and I'll shut up in 20 minutes. I don't really know any predecessors. And I feel obligated to try and address the title of the workshop. I got clean in Thunder Bay. Anyone here from Thunder Bay? Okay. Well, I may be moving back there anyways, but I got clean in Thunder Bay. And NA had just started for the third time then. I was in a treatment center, and NA was meeting in the treatment center. The Smith Clinic, and they wouldn't let us attend the meeting because there was no recovery there, of course. And I was in a halfway house for a year after that, and they wanted us to write down on a list meetings we'd gone to. NA wouldn't count. It was years before NA counted as a meeting from this treatment or from the halfway house. But that kind of prejudice was there for a long time in NA in Northwest Ontario, and it makes sense. I mean, we're a bunch of addicts, and we usually come in dressed odd, at least at first and shit. People were afraid of us. It was hard to get meeting spaces in Thunder Bay for a long time. We moved into the Zellers block from Smith Clinic once. I don't know if it's even still there. It was on the Red River. And one time we went outside and the police were there and took all our names and checked all our ID and everything because they didn't like the idea of people being in Narcotics Anonymous. We were there another time, and halfway through the meeting, a reporter stood up and started to ask questions. Even after we had done that reading, that says we're not supposed to have these people around. But it was different. People were curious about Narcotics Anonymous. People were nervous about it in Thunder Bay, for sure. And I spent a lot of time in my early recovery very isolated, in a sense that I only knew people from Thunder Bay. I was about 5 years clean when I met my first person who wasn't from my home group. That's how isolated we were. When we started the meeting, a little while after, we wrote to World Service because at that time they would respond to groups. Groups could write in, ask questions for help and stuff like that. The nearest meeting to us was about a 9-hour drive away, and we were all too lazy to do that. So we just never met anybody. And our fellowship was just us. Those of us who came in and out. Okay, not done yet. When I first got clean, we only had a little white book and 6 pamphlets. And the 6 pamphlets were pretty much most of the white book. So all we had that was new or different, I think, was a few little couple-page stories in the back of the white book. And that's what we used. That was our entire recovery literature, and that's what we used. We did bring in readings at times from other places. We approved other things because we had nothing and wanted something, and we were all new. When I first got clean, the old timer had a year. He disappeared real fast. And another 2 people had 6 months, and they stayed around for a few years. But that was it for the clean time. And we were just working off each other all the time. We would sit there and talk and say, what the heck do we tell someone like this? We had a thing where the adult treatment centers in Thunder Bay wouldn't send their patients to NA. But the youth treatment center sent them all. And we'd be sitting there. I remember one time I was sitting there at the meeting, and 20 13 and 14-year-olds came in. And the only ones in the group right then was me and a sponsee who was 16. And I was sitting there seriously thinking of going to the bathroom and not coming back. Because I really didn't want to control that meeting. And I was only a couple months clean. I didn't think that I had that much to run it with, but we held the meeting and we did it. And this was one of the things that sponsees did for me, was make me try and not be too hypocritical. Because I had told this sponsee about the joys and wonders of doing what you're supposed to do for NA. So I couldn't just run away and hide. Because I had told him about it and I wanted to live up to the things that I told this guy. So sponsoring people has certainly helped a lot in many different ways. It also got me to ask people about stuff. So if a sponsee would ask me something that I had not done or encountered, I would go ask someone else. Because I wasn't going to sit there and invent anything. But again, we were all new. And there was so much curiosity and dislike about NA and Thunder Bay for a long time. Those from Thunder Bay, at least who were there in the 80s, knows it was a very redneck town in the 80s. And they just didn't like us. Now, I went from there down to Kingston to go to school. I was 6 years clean. I went to Kingston. And the same thing there. When I got there, there was a meeting running, and they'd been running for 2 or 3 months. And I went in and talked to them, and they asked me, how long you've been clean, stuff like that. And weirdly, there was some guy had shown up. This was the third time NA had started in Kingston. And the same in Thunder Bay. When I went there, it was the third attempt. But they just folded, and the people who were there earlier left. But in Kingston the year before, some guy showed up and said he'd been clean 6 years and he was there to go to school. And he basically wrecked the group. And the group folded. And when they asked me, and I said, I've been clean 6 years, there was like, they thought I was lying and that I might be hazardous to the group for a while. But they got over that. Because I was there for 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And it didn't fold while I was there. But that was my first experience, too, at being able to go to NA meetings in other towns. And I used to go up to Ottawa. And I'd go to Toronto for meetings. Toronto's where I grew up. At that time, there was a meeting at what used to be the old 55 police station on Main Street. And I got to go to a meeting where I'd been arrested when I was using, which was really weird. Because they still had the booking desk sitting there, right? You walk in, and the little cell room was off to the side. The bars were gone. But, and it was just strange to sit there. and have an NA meeting in what used to be a police station. One thing that helped me an awful lot in my recovery was doing service work. At first, when there was no one else around, it's kind of hard not to. People just nag at you until you say okay and you do something. And we didn't have enough people to spread the titles around, so we would just spread the tasks. But I did end up over time getting to meet people from far different parts of the fellowship and stuff. And that was really nice and really good for me to hear that people had the same problems starting NA in different places. I was involved in starting NA in 4 places. And I like it better when it's been around a long time than when it's new. New is irritating. When it's been around a long time, there's other people who can do the shit, and you don't necessarily have to. I don't know how many times I sat in a meeting and I was the only person that showed up. It just happened. And there'd be other times when people would pile in. There was one time I was sitting at a meeting in Thunder Bay. I wasn't sitting there. I walked in. I was a bit late. And my sponsor come running over to me. And he said to me, my sponsee, he says to me, there's a guy in the room over there who wants to talk to somebody. And he's drunk. He's got a bottle in his pocket and a gun. Why don't you go talk to him? And I was halfway there before I realized what he said. Because, sponsee asks you to do something, say, okay, shit, I'll do it, right? And you go do it. But I thought, what the hell? But I couldn't see turning around and going away again. Because, again, I felt the obligation to help with the meeting in the group and my sponsee. So I went in there. The guy wasn't going to do anything. And we got him into detox. Never saw him again. But he went to detox that night. I remember when the key tags first came out. We got a literature order from World. World used to send us every year a World meeting list. To all, as far as I know, they send it to all the groups. And we get one of these things. And once you got your first one, they just sent updates. So we get these pages and stuff. One time we got a new order form and it had key tags on it. We'd never seen them. We didn't know they were coming, nothing. There was usually 1 or 2 people who were reading about World Service and they'd try and tell us shit. And we usually didn't want to care, but they had key tags, right? Right from the start, the first, the welcome key tag up to a year. The 18-month and 2 years came later, but and we ordered them. And about a month later, we got a letter from Taxation Canada, Revenue Canada, whoever the hell was doing it in the 80s, saying that we can't let the key tags enter Canada because we haven't decided if they're educational or promotional material. If they're promotional, we got to pay tax. If they're educational, we don't. We wrote back and said, please give them to us. We don't care if we have to pay. They did. It took 9 months. And they wouldn't release any of the stuff, so we never got any literature and stuff for 9 months either. I got to stop in 5?
5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure if that was a fan or what was it. Okay, good. Anyhow, so we get all these key tags, right? And there was about 5 or 6 of us who had been around a few years by then. And we turned the lights, we all spread around. The 1 year's glow, right? So we all had this little thing where we made the one-year key tags glow for our first welcome with them. And it was a lot of fun. Being isolated in parts of NA, I believe we got a lot closer to each other. Because there was no other source to look for information. We became friends with each other, even if we didn't like each other. We went to the meetings, we hung out together, we did stuff. And we trusted each other to follow through and do the things that we had been asked to do. I got into service work, and in doing it, I did group, area, region, world, and CANA service. And I was at the first meeting of CANA, and just as an aside, the first order of business for CANA was to decide if it had a reason to exist. And of course, it decided, yes, we should. But there was a group of people there from northern U.S. who didn't like the idea of CANA. Because what happened was at the World Service Conference, the Canadian RSRs left for a while because they were tired of just hearing about U.S. tax law and shit. So they went off and had their own meeting and decided to have another one, and a bunch of people came up to heckle. Which they did, and we didn't care really. I mean, we went on with our meeting and had it, and at the end of it, they said, "Oh boy, this is great. We should have one too." Now, I think I have 30 seconds maybe, and I don't want to cut into Diane's because I haven't heard her in a long time. By the way, I've known Diane, I think, 35 years and change, something like that, on and off. I've seen her ever since I went down to Kingston and started moving around. I bumped into her. But I think that I was lucky to be early in NA, simply because it forced me to do things and to get involved in the program, because there was no one else to do shit. I couldn't go into a meeting and say, let one of the other 40 people volunteer, I'm done. We had to do it. It got me more and more involved, and it got me clean and staying here. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Diane.
Hi family, I'm Diane, I'm an addict.
Hi Diane.
I'm glad to be here today. Yesterday was quite a different story, I didn't want to come. But as always, when I'm asked something to do something in Narcotics Anonymous, it's my responsibility to say yes. Bob did an excellent job describing the history as he knows it, and I've got my own story about our own history. I started Narcotics Anonymous in Sudbury in 1981 on May 7th. I got clean on May 1st, 1981. So. I had 6 days clean. I had been given a starter kit, and from the director of the detox. I had been in Florida and met a priest on the golf course, and I think his name was Tom. I'm not sure. No, it wasn't Tom. Tom's somebody else. Sorry. But anyways. You get old, you get brain farts, a lot of them. Anyways, on this golf course, he met this priest and asked about what people did up north for people with drug addictions. And what this priest was told was that there was really nothing. And so I was chosen. I was only a conduit. I'm not no holy roller here. I'm not taking responsibility for starting this or I was simply a conduit for God's will for us all, because we're here today. And I was chosen to be a conduit to somehow have the guts, no brains, but to have the guts to accept the responsibility. So I had never heard of Narcotics Anonymous. And we had, like Bob said, we had no literature. We didn't hear about key tags. I don't remember those 5 pamphlets you talked about, or 6 or 7. We had a couple of sheets of how to run a meeting, different kinds of meetings, whatever. And that's what we were given, a copy of the little white book. And I thought, holy moly, I mean, I'm creative, but I'm not that creative. But anyways, it was a part of my early history is affiliated with our sister fellowship or brother fellowship. I don't know if I'm male or female in this fellowship. So, anyways, I'm going to name it. Please don't be offended. AA. And once I say this, you won't hear me talk about AA again because I don't need it. It was 2 AA members that found us a place to meet and told us how to go about getting, they started getting the word out for us. So I'm very thankful to that fellowship for helping us the way that they did. And to me, that's part of who my predecessors are. To me. Maybe not you. Maybe you were fortunate enough to come into Narcotics Anonymous when there wasn't a Narcotics Anonymous program. I wasn't. There was a group in Montreal. I contacted the World Service Office, and I was told there was a group in Montreal and one in Vancouver. And, I was also told that sponsorship is important. So where am I going to get a sponsor? I'm going to go to the other fellowship for a sponsor because I need to live. I need to know how to live this stuff. And for the first 5 years of my recovery, I continued doing the diligent work of Narcotics Anonymous, but I also went to the other fellowship. I took my 5-year medallion and I walked away. And I said, thank you very much for your teachings. It doesn't quite fit for me. I have another language. I have another behavior. I can't relate to spilling more booze on my tie than you've. I can't do that. I can tell you what it's like to lie down in the ditch. I can tell you what it's like to prostitute. I can tell you what it's like to the violence, hitting my partner over the head with a hammer. I can tell you all about the dysfunction of an addict, but an alcoholic caused that problem. It was related to it, but there were years and years that I didn't drink at all. So anyways, I don't want to digress too much, but anyways, that's all you're going to hear about the other fellowship because I don't need it. I walked away with my recovery intact as it could be, because recovery has changed. My God has changed. My recovery has changed. I have changed, and it was through working the Narcotics Anonymous way. I would say that my early recovery was delayed because of what I had to do, but I was bound and determined. There wasn't just me I was given the pamphlet, but there was also a fellow named Tom who said that he would start this with me. And a couple of weeks before the meeting started, Tom relapsed and he went off to the bush to die. And so I didn't have a choice. It was me. And I chose to carry that out. And for the first few years, I must say, I did it for Tom. I didn't do it for myself. I'm a giver. I'm a social work background. I give to you, but in the meantime, I forget to give to myself sometimes. And I've learned to do that over the years. Narcotics Anonymous taught me that. So anyways, I finally, we had no medallions. We created key tags with dog tags. The first time somebody asked me how long I'd been clean, I was 3.5 years clean before anybody asked me. And I have to acknowledge, Predecessors, I was supposed to be up here on a panel of, that's what I was told last year anyways, by Tony, that I was supposed to be here with the predecessor from North Bay and the predecessor from Parry Sound. And I happen to have had the privilege of sponsoring both those ladies, but they are both not here today because of physical illness. So anyways, I said that I would acknowledge Lee from North Bay, and I would acknowledge Gail from Sault Ste. Marie. So we worked this stuff together, okay? Made a lot of mistakes. Holy moly, we broke every tradition there was. But we were trying. We didn't know. You know, we just went with what we were thought was good because we didn't have that literature in place. And I was just thinking of the junkie mother, how she was a predecessor out in the western Connecticut and that. And what they used to do after the meeting is they would go and watch pornos. They would go to somebody's house and watch pornos. Well, we didn't do that, but probably only because I was married. Anyways, it's been a constant growth, and for me to be able to, it's like osmosis, but long-term osmosis. Like I've sat in my shit a lot of years, and I try not to do that. My recovery changed a lot when I started traveling. I know that I'm forgetting years and years, and I'm jumping all over. 6 weeks ago, I was T-boned in my car, and I got a brain injury and 3 fractured discs in my neck. So I've written some little notes to jog my mind, and so please pardon me if I have to make reference to that. Last night I was. Part of the head injury is I experienced a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And last night I was paralyzed in my home by the anxiety and the stress. I could not make it out of my house. So, and it was basically related to the parking issue. Where the hell am I going to park? I've got these, and this is the excuse I gave myself. It's hard to find a parking spot there. I need a disabled spot. Like, I can't walk far. And the last time I was in the parking lot, I got lost, and I had to go back to the doctor's office, and I had to say, I don't know where I am. And I was right by the door, right by the exit. So she had to use my beeper. I thought I was looking for a blue car, but my blue car got wrecked. My blue car got totaled. So I was driving a white one, but I didn't remember that. So naturally, it's a challenge to be up here, and sharing with you guys. But I was told by my sponsor this morning, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. You don't have to worry about anything. She said, you'll do great, just tell the truth. Your truth. How much time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. So anyways, I've had the same sponsor for 14 years. She lives in Florida. And I've had to resort to out-of-country sponsors because There just was nobody to sponsor me here. And so I did what I had to. And I just finished Around the Steps with her. Our literature is so beautiful, so written from the soul. Anyways, my sponsor is Nina from Florida, and she knocked the shits out of me, with stop work. She made me work. Anyways, I basically today try to follow God's will, and that 10th step has been a great teacher for me. And I just wanted to read something that my friend Diane read the other day at my kitchen table, and it's part of the May 16th, just for today. In the course of working the steps, we make a personal decision to allow a loving higher power to direct us. That guidance is always available. We need only the patience to seek it. Often that guidance manifests itself in inner wisdom, in the inner wisdom we call our conscience. When we open our hearts wide enough to sense our higher power's guidance, we feel a calm serenity. This peace is the beacon that guides us through our troubled feelings, providing clear direction when our minds are busy and confused. We seek to follow God's will in our lives. We find that contentment and joy that often elude us when we strike out on our own. Fear or doubt may plague us when we attempt to carry out our higher power's will, but we've learned to trust that moment of clarity. And that moment of clarity is what I am trying to point out here. And I just want to say that when I pray for God's will, but Diane's will is really strong too, still. And so some days I have to wait for months for an answer, but I know that moment, if I keep in touch with the spiritual principles of this program, I know that moment of clarity will come. And that's what I wanted to highlight in that reading. Our greatest happiness lies in following the will of our loving God. Is it, and then I start analyzing that. And I start thinking, like getting struck when I was going out to get my nails done, getting T-boned by some idiot. Was that God's will, or was that just an accident, or, But I tell you that through every single bit of pain, every single bit, from losing kids, from 2 divorces, from losing my life partner, the love of my life, through my battles, physical. I've made some really stupid moves that caused me a lot of pain. But anyways, I've always been saved. And I continue to be saved. Is that God's will? I'm not done, I guess. 40 years ago, I was on life support for 3 days. Not thinking everybody was giving up on me, not thinking I wouldn't live. It wasn't God's will for me. I'm still here, and in my own way, I'm kicking the bucket. But my own bucket, because my bucket's not real big these days. I love, the serenity of my home. My challenges as an aging person in recovery are not always the same as yours, because I'm not only aging biologically, I'm aging spiritually, mentally, emotionally. These are all things that come with working on those quadrants of our life. And my world is very small. Just one more thing, okay? One living amend, and I shot dope every day when I was pregnant. Now, who does that? I did that. Did I have clarity of mind? Absolutely not. I wound up in the hospital 2 weeks before I delivered my baby with hepatitis. And I said, I'm pregnant. Okay, that's insanity for me. But anyways, I've always felt very guilty about that, and it's been one of my core issues. And when I came to, just before coming to recovery, I went into social work, and I worked in the child welfare field for many years. And I retired about 5 years ago, in April, 5 years ago. And I decided that I was ready to foster. I was ready to make a willing amend. And that was, I took on a little boy to foster, a little autistic boy. And I've had him for 5 years. And he's been one of my greatest teachers. And I thank God for the opportunity. I thank my little Brent for the opportunity to make those amends. I've worked very closely with the agency that fosters, no, the agency whose care he's in, I used to work for. So I know how to advocate for that child, and I shake their tree something fierce. That little boy has had every service that he's entitled to. And as a result of that, and result of helping the mom get on her feet too, that little boy's going home. He's going home to his mama. And we're doing the integration system where every month he comes to me a day less. And next month we're moving into, he will be with me 1 day a month. And what's going to become of me, I don't know. I've never been here before. You know? And we've never been in this day before. This is all brand new stuff for us. So anyways, I'm going to close now. But anyways, I love those moments where the chain is connected, where all the loops are in place. I love that feeling of peace in my soul. And I'm not the violent person who used to hit people over the head with a hammer and do time in jail. I'm gentle. And most of the time I'm serene and I'm kind. And you guys taught me how to do that. You guys taught me how to shine in my own day. So thank you very much for allowing me to share this with you. And I thank God, my compadre. And I thank you all. I thank the committee for asking me to share. And I prayed for years for you guys to come. Because for the first 3.5 years I was by myself, hugging that coffee pot. So I prayed for you to come, and you're here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was amazing, and touched me close to heart because I'm in Kingston. So yeah, it was just great to hear that message. So, on behalf of the Ontario Region of Narcotics Anonymous, I'd like to thank you, Bob, and you, Diane, for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us. Thank you very much. And for those who will, maybe we'll form a circle and close out with the third step prayer.
I had an injury this last summer where I was delirious for a few days.
We've been delirious most of our life.
I didn't know where I was or how to get home or anything.
Yours? We'll leave that here till after we close.
Here, I'll move back. We'll just make a bigger circle. Oh no, they're going over there. All right. It'll just be a little spur.
Hey, my name's Rob. I'm an addict.
Hey, Rob.
We have a moment of silence for the still suffering addict. And can we close out with the third step prayer? Many of us have said,
Take my will in my life, guide me in my recovery, and show me how to live. Keep coming back and work if you work it, so work because you're worth it.
Bob, you have a request over here.
Bob, that's for you, buddy, on behalf of the committee. They want to talk to you before you go. You got a second. Diane, thank you so much. Diane, thank you so much. On behalf of the committee, and for you. Thank you for sharing your information and help. That's amazing. Thank you. Very well done.
I have to give you a hug. I had a traumatic brain injury in 2015 after being clean a really long time. And a couple of months after I got married. So all of a sudden this whole other person showed up. My husband was like, what is happening? And he said, thank God he's in recovery too. But yeah, I really, is this the lineup today?